many times have you felt the sting of mockery? How many times have people looked at you, laughed, dismissed you, or told you you will never make it? Perhaps they mocked your faith, your efforts, or even your dreams. At that moment, it feels like the world is closing in on you. But let me remind you, when people mock you, Allah is watching. And when Allah is watching, it is only a matter of time before His plan unfolds. When a person experiences mockery, ridicule, or belittlement, it strikes at the core of their dignity. Words carry weight, and when spoken with the intention to wound, they can pierce deeper than physical blows. Many of us know what it feels like when people laugh at our efforts, dismiss our dreams, or reduce our sincerity to a joke. Sometimes the laughter is direct and loud. Other times it comes in subtle smirks, whispers behind your back, or the rolling of eyes when you speak. Each act plants a seed of doubt within you, making you question your worth, your purpose, and even your faith. Yet in that very moment, though it feels unbearable, Allah is fully aware of what you endure. He tells us in the Quran that He knows the whispers of the chest and the secret that is even more hidden. Nothing escapes His knowledge, not even the silent mockery people may hold in their hearts when they see you striving. It is natural to feel hurt, because mockery is not just about words, it is about rejection. It carries a message: you are not enough, you are wasting your time, you will fail. The mockers project their own arrogance and insecurities onto you. When Nuh, peace be upon him, built the ark, they laughed not just at the structure of the ship, but at the idea that he could possibly be guided while they were not. They mocked his persistence, his faith, and his certainty in Allah's promise. They thought themselves superior, while he was just one man with a mission. But mockery often says more about the one mocking than the one being mocked. It reveals pride, blindness, and a lack of insight into what truly matters. Imagine the young person who decides to turn their life around, to leave behind sinful habits and embrace a path of worship. Perhaps they wake up for Fajr, begin attending the masjid, or dress modestly for the first time. Those closest to them might be the first to laugh. Friends may say, "Who do you think you are?" suddenly becoming religious. Family members may mock, "This is just a phase, you won't last." In schools and workplaces, colleagues may roll their eyes when they request a prayer break, or refuse to engage in gossip. That laughter is sharp, but what it really signals is fear. Fear that you might actually succeed, that you might expose their negligence by your sincerity, that you might rise where they have chosen to remain stagnant. Mockery can also be disguised as advice. People may pretend to care while secretly tearing you down. They may say, "Don't waste your time trying that. Be realistic. People like us don't reach that level." Underneath those words is a refusal to believe that Allah can honor whom He wills. They box you into their limited imagination, and when you refuse to accept their boundaries, their frustration comes out as mockery. But those who trust Allah understand that His treasures are unlimited, and His power is beyond human comprehension. He can take the orphan boy Muhammad ﷺ, mocked and abandoned, and raise him to be the most beloved to billions until the end of time. He can take Yusuf ﷺ, a boy thrown into a well, mocked by his own brothers, and elevate him to rule a kingdom. Every insult is just a stepping stone if one holds firm. The pain of being mocked, however, is not to be dismissed lightly. It lingers in the heart. A person may replay the words over and over, hearing the laughter echo in their mind long after the moment has passed. Sometimes it breaks confidence and pushes someone into silence. Other times it fuels anger and a desire for revenge. Yet the believer learns to transform that sting into a reminder: if they laugh at me for being sincere, then I am on a path walked by the prophets. Every messenger faced ridicule. Every righteous servant was doubted before they were honored. The Quran mentions again and again that the disbelievers laughed at the believers, but in the hereafter the situation will be reversed, when the believers recline on couches and look upon those who once mocked them. The reality is that people mock what they do not understand. When they see you striving for something higher, they cannot comprehend it because their sight is locked onto the material world. They are unable to see what Allah may be preparing for you in the unseen. They mock the ark because they cannot imagine the flood. They mock prayer because they cannot imagine the tranquility it brings. They mock your patience because they cannot imagine the reward stored for you in Jannah. Their laughter is proof of their blindness, not of your failure. In moments of mockery, your test is not to retaliate with equal harshness, but to stand firm with dignity. Silence can be more powerful than argument. Resilience can speak louder than words. Every time they laugh, you add another brick to your fortress of patience. With each wound, your heart softens before Allah and grows harder against the schemes of people. You begin to realize that mockery is not an obstacle to your journey. It is a companion along the path of truth. It tells you that you are walking where the prophets walked, enduring what the righteous endured, and preparing for what Allah has promised. Allah's timing is a reality that many believe in with their tongues, but few grasp with their hearts. Human beings are impatient by nature, quick to want results, quick to seek closure, and quick to expect reward. We live in a world where immediacy is praised, instant messages, instant deliveries, instant gratification. When something is delayed, we feel as though it has been denied. But Allah, in His perfect wisdom, operates beyond our sense of urgency. He is never late, and He is never unaware. His timing is always deliberate, purposeful, and filled with mercy. When you look back on your own life, you may recall times when you asked for something desperately, only to receive it months or years later, and when it finally arrived, it came at a moment when it was best for you, not when you first demanded it. That is Allah's way of teaching us that He knows what we do not. The Quran emphasizes this truth repeatedly. Allah tells us, it may be that you dislike a thing which is good for you, and you like a thing which is bad for you. Allah knows, but you do not know. This verse is not just about patience with hardship, it is about reprogramming how we see delay. A delay is not a rejection, it is a form of divine filtration. Allah withholds not because He wants to punish you, but because He wants to prepare you. Imagine if the rain fell before the seed was planted. Imagine if a tree bore fruit before its roots were deep. The result would not last. In the same way, if Allah were to give you every blessing you asked for at the very moment you asked, it could destroy you, not benefit you. Sometimes your heart must first be humbled, your character must be shaped, and your faith must be tested, so that when the blessing arrives, you can carry it without arrogance or waste. Think of Yusuf alayhi salam. As a boy he dreamed of greatness, of the sun, moon, and stars bowing to him, but he was thrown into a well, sold as a slave, imprisoned in darkness. From the outside it looked like failure, like delay, like abandonment. But each step was perfectly timed by Allah. If Yusuf had gone directly from the dream to the throne, he would never have gained the strength, the wisdom, and the humility that came from those trials. By the time he was raised to power, he was not just a ruler but a servant of Allah, who had tasted suffering and could show mercy to those who once mocked him. Allah's timing turned ridicule into respect and rejection into authority. In our own lives, this pattern repeats. A person prays for a job, but every interview seems to end in rejection. They begin to wonder why Allah is silent. But then when the right opportunity finally appears, it fits so perfectly with their skills, circumstances, and future that they realize every no before was actually a form of protection. A young woman might pray for marriage, yet proposal after proposal falls through. The waiting tests her patience, but when the right spouse enters her life, she realizes why the delays occurred. Allah was preserving her for a future she could not yet imagine. In the moment of waiting, the heart aches, but with hindsight, the heart smiles and whispers. Allah's timing was flawless. Patience in these moments is not passive, it is an active form of worship. To wait upon Allah is to declare, I trust that you know better than I know. It is to quiet the inner voice of despair, and to resist the whispers of shaitan that say, see, Allah has abandoned you. When you continue to make dua, continue to strive, and continue to trust even in the silence, you are planting seeds of faith. Those seeds may remain buried for a long time, invisible to the eye, but when Allah sends His rain of mercy, they sprout suddenly, beautifully, and abundantly, showing you that nothing was wasted. The problem with human perception is that we measure success by clocks and calendars. We count days, months, and years. We set deadlines and become anxious when they pass. But Allah is the creator of time itself. For Him there is no rush. For Him the decree is written and secured. He has promised, and His promise is true, whether it unfolds in this life or the next. When a believer internalizes this, their heart softens toward delay. Instead of saying, why not now? They begin to say, when Allah knows it is best. This surrender brings peace, because it shifts the focus from our limited view to Allah's unlimited wisdom. Even mockery fits into this divine timing. When people laugh at you, dismiss you, or ridicule your efforts, Allah allows it not to humiliate you permanently, but to set the stage for your vindication. If every mockery was answered instantly with success, the world would never witness the depth of Allah's plan. It is the waiting that makes the victory so profound. When Noah alayhi salam built the ark for years while people jeered, it was not because Allah could not send the flood immediately, but because every moment of laughter was meant to increase the magnitude of the eventual truth. The longer the wait, the sharper the contrast between human arrogance and divine reality. This is why patience is not about folding your hands and doing nothing. It is about striving sincerely, praying consistently, and trusting relentlessly, even when nothing seems to move. It is about understanding that the gap between your prayer and its answer is not empty. It is filled with lessons, growth, unseen protection, and preparation. Allah's delay is never neglect. It is precision. His plan is unfolding, even when your eyes cannot yet see it. The Quran is full of reminders that mockery and ridicule are not new. They are part of the story of truth itself. Every prophet faced rejection, insults, and laughter from their people. Yet every prophet was ultimately honored by Allah, and those who mocked them became the ones remembered for their arrogance. This is one of the most powerful lessons that the Quran teaches. Do not be deceived by the laughter of people, because their laughter is temporary, but the promise of Allah is eternal. When we read the stories of the prophets, we are not simply reading history, we are being shown a mirror for our own struggles, a pattern of life that repeats in every generation. Nuh alayhi salam spent centuries calling his people to the worship of Allah. He warned them, guided them, and pleaded with them, but they responded with mockery. They placed their fingers in their ears, they covered themselves with their clothes so they would not have to listen, and they dismissed him as someone lost in delusion. When he began to build the ark under Allah's command, they laughed even louder. Imagine the scene, a prophet of Allah, hammering wood together in the middle of dry land, insisting that a flood was coming. To them it was the most absurd thing they had ever seen. Yet when the sky opened and the earth gushed forth with water, the same ark they mocked became the vessel of salvation. Their laughter turned into screams, their arrogance into despair. What they thought was foolishness became proof of divine wisdom. The Quran makes it clear that mockery is not a sign of strength. It is a sign of blindness. Allah says, indeed, messengers were ridiculed before you, but those who mocked them were enveloped by what they used to ridicule. This is a divine law. When people mock the truth, they are not harming the truth, they are harming themselves. Their laughter does not change reality. Their words do not erase destiny. They only expose their own arrogance, which eventually becomes the cause of their downfall. For the believer, this is a source of immense comfort. It means that when you are mocked, you are walking a path that the greatest of humanity walked before you. You are not alone. You are in the company of prophets. The lessons of these stories are not meant to remain in the past. They apply directly to the believer today. When you face ridicule for holding on to your deen, remember Nuh and his ark. When you are mocked for your voice, your weakness, or your efforts, remember Musa and Pharaoh. When you are belittled for your faith or your struggles, remember Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Makkah, outnumbered and rejected. Each story shows that the mockery of people is not the end. It is part of the beginning. It is the backdrop against which Allah's help becomes most visible. Without the laughter of the people, the flood of Noah would not have been such a sign. Without the arrogance of Pharaoh, the splitting of the sea would not have carried the same power. Without the jeers of Quraysh, the eventual victory of Islam would not have shone so brightly. The Quran also reminds us of the reversal that happens on the Day of Judgment. Those who mocked the believers will be the ones mocked by Allah. The same people who laughed at the faithful for praying, for being humble, for living with taqwa, will find themselves humiliated. The believers will look at them from their seats in Jannah and smile, just as they were once smiled at in scorn. The world turns, and the roles are reversed, because Allah's justice is perfect. The laughter of this world is short, but the laughter of the hereafter is everlasting. These Quranic lessons show us that mockery is not to be feared. It is to be understood as part of Allah's pattern. Those who mock are unknowingly preparing the stage for the truth to be elevated. They are writing their own downfall with every insult, while the believer who remains patient and steadfast is writing their own honor with every moment of endurance. The Quran does not hide the pain of mockery, but it transforms it into hope, reminding us that every insult has already been endured by the best of people, and every insult is a sign that Allah's plan is unfolding in ways the mockers cannot see. In life, one of the hardest realities to accept is that mockery often comes from the people closest to you. Strangers may not even notice your struggle, but family, friends, and colleagues who know your history can be the first to doubt and laugh. They remember your mistakes, your past failures, your weaknesses, and they use those memories as proof that you will never change or succeed. When you try to start something new, a business, an education, a journey of faith, their laughter echoes louder than any stranger's words. It is as though your past chains you in their eyes, while in reality Allah is preparing you for a future they cannot comprehend. This is where real-life reflections become so powerful, because they remind us that mockery and rejection are not barriers, but hidden signs that Allah is about to write a different story for you. Consider the young man who decides to memorize the Quran. His friends scoff at him. You can barely read properly. You'll never finish. Don't waste your time. Every time he opens the mushaf, their voices ring in his ears. Yet day after day, verse after verse, he continues. Months pass, years pass, and he completes his journey. Those same friends who mocked him now come to him for recitation at gatherings. Now ask him for dua. Now respect him for the very thing they once ridiculed. What changed? Not him alone, but the timing of Allah's help. Their mockery was not the final word. It was just the opening scene before Allah revealed His plan. Think also of the young woman who begins wearing hijab in a community where it is unusual. She walks into her school or workplace and feels the stares. Some whisper behind her back, some even laugh to her face. They say, "Why make your life harder? Why cover yourself like that? You'll never fit in." In those moments, she feels the weight of their words, but she also feels the quiet strength of Allah's promise that those who hold fast to Him will never be abandoned. Over time, her modesty becomes her pride, her symbol of dignity. Some of those who laughed at her later admit their admiration. Others even find inspiration to take steps toward faith themselves. Their laughter, instead of breaking her, became the soil in which her resilience grew strong roots. Mockery is not always direct. Sometimes it comes in the form of disbelief. A person sets out to open a small shop, a business from scratch, and relatives say, "Why bother? You'll just waste your savings. It's impossible in this economy." They shake their heads when they see the person working long hours with little reward. They mutter behind closed doors about how foolish the dream is. But the one who trusts Allah and perseveres eventually sees doors open. Slowly the business grows, and one day those same relatives are astonished at the success. What they once laughed at becomes the very source of provision Allah has written. The truth is that many great transformations begin in the shadows of ridicule. Yusuf alayhi salam was mocked by his own brothers, dismissed as a dreamer. Yet those very dreams became the reality that defined his destiny. People may not recognize what Allah has placed inside you because their vision is limited by their own doubts. They only see your present weakness. Allah sees your future strength. They only see your current effort. Allah sees the fruits He has already decreed. Their laughter is bound to the moment, but Allah's plan stretches across time. Even in smaller, everyday struggles, this pattern is visible. A person battling an addiction decides to change. He announces his intention to quit, to repent, to seek Allah's forgiveness. People laugh and say, You've said this before, you'll never change." Their words burn, because they echo his own inner doubts. But he persists, fighting silently, turning to Allah every time he stumbles. Months later, he is sober, healed, stronger than before. The same people who doubted now sit in awe, unable to deny what Allah has done for him. Their laughter was nothing more than noise compared to the mercy of Allah that carried him through. Sometimes the laughter comes from entire societies. When someone holds to their deen in a world that celebrates everything but submission to Allah, they are mocked collectively. The media, the culture, the environment may all send the same message. You are backwards, irrelevant, out of touch. Yet history teaches us that what is mocked today can become the very source of dignity tomorrow. Islam itself was once a faith of outcasts, a handful of followers clinging to prayer in secret, mocked by the Quraysh. Today it is the religion of over 1 billion people, spreading across every continent. What seemed weak in the eyes of people was always strong in the plan of Allah. These reflections remind us that mockery is never the final chapter. It is only part of the test. If people laugh at you for praying, it means Allah has given you the courage to worship Him while others are heedless. If people laugh at your small efforts, it means Allah is allowing you to sow seeds whose harvest they cannot imagine. If people dismiss your struggles, it means Allah is the one who will honor you, not them. The very things people use to belittle you often become the same things Allah uses to elevate you. That is why their laughter should never break you. It should remind you that you are on a path that has always been walked with resistance before it was crowned with honor. Trusting Allah completely is one of the greatest challenges of faith. It is easy to say with the tongue, I rely on Allah, but the heart trembles when reality tests those words. Trust means letting go of the illusion that we are in control, surrendering our fears, our timelines, and our desires to the one who has written every detail of our lives. It means looking at uncertainty, not with panic, but with quiet assurance that what lies ahead has already been measured perfectly by the one who never makes mistakes. The believer is called to this state again and again in the Quran, for Allah knows how fragile the human heart is, how quick it is to doubt, and how easily it is shaken by mockery, delay, or hardship. The command to trust and surrender is not passive. It does not mean sitting idle and waiting for miracles to fall from the sky. Tawakkul, true trust in Allah, is a balance between effort and surrender. You do everything in your power, with sincerity, but you detach your heart from the results. You plan, you strive, you prepare, but you know that only Allah can turn effort into outcome. When Ibrahim alayhi salam was thrown into the fire, he did not know how Allah's help would come. He did not imagine that the flames could be turned into coolness. Yet his heart was steady, because he had surrendered the outcome to Allah. His effort was to believe. Allah's response was to save. In the same way, the believer today must cultivate that trust. When people mock you, when circumstances discourage you, your heart must return to this truth. Allah's promise is more real than people's laughter. You cannot control how others treat you, but you can control your response. You cannot dictate the speed of Allah's plan, but you can remain firm in your faith until His plan unfolds. The Quran tells us, and whoever relies upon Allah, then He is sufficient for him. That sufficiency is not only in the form of material provision, but in the calmness of heart, the protection from despair, and the hidden blessings that come long before any visible success. Trusting Allah also requires preparation. Many people misunderstand surrender as abandoning effort, but the prophets never did that. Nuh alayhi salam built the ark with his own hands, plank by plank, nail by nail, even as he was mocked. Musa alayhi salam marched his people to the sea, even though from a human perspective it looked like a dead end. Maryam alayhi salam shook the trunk of the date palm, though she was weak and in labor, and Allah caused ripe dates to fall. Each of them acted, even in their weakness, showing us that trust is proven by action. You prepare yourself for the blessing you pray for, even if it feels far away, because that preparation itself is part of tawakkul. When a believer internalizes this, surrender no longer feels like loss of control, it feels like freedom. The burden of trying to manipulate every outcome, to chase every opportunity, to respond to every insult, lifts off the shoulders. You realize you do not need to convince the world of your worth, because Allah already knows it. You do not need to fight every battle of mockery, because Allah's justice will speak louder than your words. You do not need to panic about the future, because the future is already written, and it is written by the one who loves you more than you love yourself. This shift in mindset transforms fear into calm, and despair into hope. But trust also requires urgency. The believer does not say, I will wait for Allah's plan, so I can relax in heedlessness. Instead, they understand that surrender means preparing themselves spiritually and practically for what Allah may send. You do not know when the rain of His mercy will fall, so you dig the channels now to catch it. You do not know when His victory will arrive, so you strengthen your heart now to carry it. You do not know when your dua will be answered, so you continue making it with persistence, knowing that every plea is recorded. This urgency prevents the heart from falling into laziness, while surrender prevents the heart from falling into despair. The stories of the past show this balance vividly. When the Prophet ﷺ and his companions hid in the cave during the Hijrah, Abu Bakr was terrified that the enemies would see them. The Prophet ﷺ reassured him, do not be sad, indeed Allah is with us. That statement was not an escape from reality. It was a declaration of trust in the midst of danger. They had already done their part, planned the migration, chosen a guide, taken precautions. At that moment, what remained was surrender to Allah, and Allah delivered, veiling their presence, and allowing them to reach Medina safely. This shows us that trust is built in steps, effort, patience, and then surrender. Trusting Allah also protects the believer from the poison of comparison. When you see others rise quickly while you are still struggling, Shaitan whispers that Allah has forgotten you. But Tawakkul reminds you that everyone's path is different, and what Allah withholds from you now is not a sign of neglect, but a sign of His wisdom. Perhaps He is saving you from arrogance. Perhaps He is preparing something better. Perhaps He is teaching you resilience. Those who mock you may rise faster, but their rise is short-lived if it is not grounded in Allah's pleasure.